Hear these words from Matthew chapter 6, verses 19 through 21. Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust destroy, and where thieves break in and steal, but store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust destroy, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also.
I didn't write an introduction to these beautiful words because they come from the heart of our dear daughter, Tyra. They are a blessing. She is a blessing. Her family is a blessing to our family. And her words resonated throughout Stephen's illness. And these are her remembrances that I hope that you will hold in your hearts. For almost 2 years, Steve and I were focused on making him well, on fighting the damn spot. Those 2 years amplified the qualities that made Steve, Steve. During the first 38 years of his life, what he would call his charmed life, he was fearless, he was passionate, he was fully invested, he was creative. He was a marvelous friend during the scariest challenge of his life, living with an inoperable, deadly brain tumor. He was even more fearless. He was even more passionate. He was even more invested. He was even more creative. His company and his expression and empathy as a friend reached new heights. Stephen wasn't afraid of adventure. For the first 10 years we were together, Steve owned a motorcycle. But because Steve was Steve, it wasn't just any motorcycle. It was a rare Italian racing bike. Some weekends when we were dating, he would drive it between Brenham and Dallas. One Sunday, he took me out on a 2-lane hilly road on the Ducati. I wrapped my arms around his chest and held on tight, convinced I would be terrified on the ride. Steve was so confident, though, that my fears melted away. And the faster we sped, the more often he would chuckle or yell, "Yeehaw!" I hope I got that right. Steve wasn't afraid to love either. When we lived in Lubbock, we had awful luck with our first 2 Scottish Terriers. Both died much too young. To be honest, after going through the heartache of losing 2 dogs, I really preferred to never own another. I remember crying, telling Steve that I was afraid to love another pet, afraid of the pain that would eventually follow. He eased my fears, telling me, "You can't live life worried about what you'll lose. You have to be open to love, even knowing there will be pain." When Steve loved someone or something, he did so with great passion. I would call it unbridled enthusiasm, a nod to a Seinfeld episode that always made us laugh. I've never known a father more passionate about his children. When it was bedtime at our house, nothing else mattered. Steve would beat me to the kids' bathtub every time so that he could bathe them and get them ready to sleep. He looked forward to reading with Cooper and Katie every night and would often read past bedtime because he couldn't bear to leave the room. Because Steve was Steve, he didn't settle for just any books. When Cooper was 3, Steve started reading chapter books to our son. He introduced him to Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and Charlotte's Web. One of their favorite shared experiences was Harry Potter. Cooper and Steve read the first 5 volumes together and almost finished book 6. When Steve's voice started to fail, he wasn't ready to give up their special time. Some days he would stop talking for 2 hours before bedtime so that he'd have the strength and voice to read 4 pages of Harry Potter aloud to his Cooper D. About a year ago, I recorded a short video of 3-year-old Katie dancing on our bench on the front porch. Her outfit includes a red tutu and brown boots, and she shakes, stomps, and shimmies with enviable confidence. Steve loved this video. He would watch it over and over again, every time giggling or weeping a little, every time with his hand over his heart. He also made others watch it over and over again. During hospital stays, when Steve had his laptop computer open so that he could work from his bed, he would introduce nurses and medical assistants to Katie by showing them the dancing video multiple times. I often called Steve all or nothing man. He was fully invested in whatever project he chose. When he was a healthcare consultant, he spent every week out of town. For 3 years, he commuted to and from Los Angeles or St. Louis. We both wanted to start having children, but neither one of us wanted Steve to be an absent father. He worked with dads who left their families behind week after week, and he couldn't fathom missing so many school plays and sports practices and bedtime routines. Steve's new job with Children's Medical Center was an answer to prayer. He would no longer travel, plus he would be working on a project that fulfilled his passion to help people. He helped to create a clinic for children from low-income families, ensuring that children would have access to quality health care. At the same time, he was available for almost every performance, practice, game, and nighttime tuck-in. In 2000, he chose running because Steve was Steve. He didn't just run a little. He ran 5Ks, then 10Ks, and then marathons. Back in 1994, when he chose to marry me, he was fully invested in our marriage. He was equally gifted with big flourishes and little details. When we traveled, he always held my hand during a flight's takeoff and landing. He did the same every time we prayed. When we were in Paris to celebrate our 5th anniversary, he planned special themed days. One day was all about perfume. We stopped in countless shops so that we could sniff perfume until we found the perfect scent for me. I've worn Champs-Élysées ever since. Steve never let my supply run low. Another day was all about chocolate. We bought and sampled chocolates throughout that romantic city. Ever since then, Steve kept my bedside table stocked with chocolates. He always knew how to comfort me, how to make me laugh, and when I needed time alone, when I needed extra time with him. Steve earned an MBA and spent his work hours analyzing data and producing detailed reports, but he never ignored his creative side. He painted, sculpted, created a floor vase, crafted a table, sang, played trumpet, told fanciful